Most Toyota owners believe their engine is bulletproof, and honestly, Toyota earned that reputation. But there is a window between 30,000 and 60,000 miles where even the toughest Toyota engines become quietly vulnerable. Not from bad driving, not from cheap oil, from skipped maintenance that Toyota actually expects you to do, but never makes obvious enough. The parts that fail are not dramatic. They are small, hidden, and easy to forget. But when they go, they take the entire engine with them. A valve job alone can run $2,500. A full rebuild on a 2GR-FE or 2AR-FE engine can easily hit $5,500 at a dealership. And in almost every case, the damage traces back to something that should have been caught before 60,000 miles. This video covers exactly what needs to happen inside your Toyota engine during that critical window, so you never face that repair bill. Let's get into it. Number 1. Replace the engine coolant before it turns acidic. Toyota Long Life coolant is engineered to last, but it does not last forever. Most Toyota models call for a first coolant replacement around 100,000 miles, but that guideline assumes ideal conditions. In the real world, short trips, stop-and-go traffic, and extreme summer temperatures break down coolant chemistry much faster than steady highway cruising ever could. By 50,000 to 60,000 miles, the corrosion inhibitors in your coolant are already weakening. When those inhibitors fail, the coolant becomes slightly acidic. That acid attacks the inside of your aluminum cylinder head, water pump housing, thermostat gasket, and radiator core from the inside out. Toyota engines like the 2AR-FE found in the Camry and RAV4 and the 2GR-FE found in the Highlander and Avalon use aluminum extensively throughout the cooling system. Aluminum and acidic coolant do not coexist peacefully. Internal corrosion creates tiny metallic particles that clog the narrow passages of the heater core and reduce cooling efficiency across the entire system. A $15 coolant flush before 60,000 miles protects a cooling system that costs $1,500 to $3,000 to rebuild once corrosion takes hold. You can test the coolant yourself with a $5 pH strip from any auto parts store. If the reading falls below 7.0, do not wait another week. Drain it and refill with Toyota Super Long Life coolant or an equivalent OAT-based formula. Clean coolant keeps temperatures stable. Stable temperatures keep head gaskets alive, and head gaskets are what stand between a running engine and a $5,500 rebuild. Number 2. Inspect and clean the variable valve timing oil control valves. Toyota's VVTi system is one of the key reasons these engines breathe so efficiently and deliver strong fuel economy across the RPM range. But VVTi depends entirely on clean oil flowing through small precision solenoids called oil control valves, mounted on the cylinder head near the camshafts. These valves direct pressurized oil to advance or retard cam timing based on driving conditions, throttle input, and engine load. Between 40,000 and 60,000 miles, varnish and microscopic sludge particles begin coating the fine mesh screens and internal passages of these valves. When flow becomes restricted, the ECU cannot adjust cam timing accurately. The result is a rough idle, hesitation during acceleration, reduced fuel economy, and eventually a check engine light with VVT-related diagnostic trouble codes. Replacing a failed VVT solenoid runs $150 to $400 depending on the engine and whether you go OEM or aftermarket. But if restricted oil flow damages the VVT gear actuator itself, That repair jumps to $800 to $1,200 with labor. Removing the oil control valves, cleaning the mesh screens with carburetor cleaner, and inspecting the O-ring seals before 60,000 miles is one of the cheapest and most effective things you can do to protect Toyota's variable valve timing system. Most independent shops charge less than an hour of labor for this service. Some owners handle it in a driveway with basic hand tools and a 10mm socket. The solenoids are externally mounted on the cylinder head and usually held in place by a single bolt. Clean screens mean responsive cam timing. Responsive cam timing means an engine that runs exactly the way Toyota designed it to for hundreds of thousands of miles. Number 3. Replace the spark plugs before they overstay their welcome. Toyota Iridium. Spark plugs are rated for up to 120,000 miles on paper. That number gives owners a false sense of security. By 60,000 miles, electrode wear has already begun changing the combustion dynamics inside each cylinder. The center electrode tip erodes slightly with every combustion event, widening the spark gap beyond its original factory specification. A wider gap demands more voltage from the ignition coils to fire consistently, which increases electrical stress on the coil packs and raises the chance of misfires under heavy load or cold start conditions. Misfires send unburned fuel past the exhaust valves and directly into the catalytic converter, where that raw fuel superheats the catalyst substrate and causes permanent internal damage. Catalytic converter replacements on Toyota models regularly exceed $1,500 to $2,800 depending on the model and whether the vehicle uses a direct fit or universal unit. Replacing all spark plugs before 60,000 miles costs roughly $80 to $200 in parts using original equipment manufacturer Denso or NGK Iridium plugs. That small investment resets the entire ignition system to factory performance and removes one of the biggest hidden stressors on your coils and catalytic converters. When removing the old plugs, take a moment to inspect the electrode color and condition. A healthy plug shows a light tan or gray electrode. Black sooty deposits indicate a rich fuel condition or possible ignition weakness. Oily or wet deposits signal deeper issues like worn valve stem seals or failing oil control rings that need attention before they escalate into major engine repairs. Fresh plugs also restore throttle response and fuel economy that eroded so gradually over 60,000 miles that most drivers never noticed the loss until the new ones went in. Number 4. Clean the throttle body and idle air passages. Carbon builds up slowly inside the throttle body, bore, and around the edges of the throttle plate on every gasoline Toyota engine. This accumulation narrows the air passage that controls idle speed and low throttle response at the exact point where metering precision matters most. By 50,000 to 60,000 miles, many Toyota engines develop a slightly rough or hunting idle that owners dismiss as normal aging. It is not normal. It is carbon physically restricting airflow through the throttle body assembly. The electronic throttle control system attempts to compensate by adjusting the throttle plate position through software, but it can only correct so far before idle quality suffers noticeably and fuel trims begin drifting out of specification. A dirty throttle body also forces the engine control unit to command richer fuel trims at idle to maintain combustion stability, which accelerates carbon buildup on intake valves, piston crowns, and oxygen sensors. Cleaning the throttle body takes about 20 minutes with a can of dedicated throttle body cleaner and a clean microfiber cloth. Remove the air intake hose from the throttle body. Spray the interior bore and both sides of the throttle plate. Wipe away the softened carbon deposits and reassemble. After cleaning, the engine idle may feel slightly different for a few drive cycles as the engine control unit relearns its base throttle position. This $8 can of cleaner restores the AIR flow precision that protects fuel economy, keeps emissions within specification, and ensures the engine idles exactly the way it did the day it rolled off the assembly line. If you made it this far, then consider liking this video, giving it a thumbs up, and subscribing to my channel. This helps me bring you more honest car advice. Number 5. Replace the engine air filter before it starves the engine. This sounds too basic to matter, but a restricted engine air filter does real mechanical damage over time that most owners never connect back to a clogged filter. Toyota's mass airflow sensor sits directly downstream of the air filter element, inside the plastic intake tube. When the filter becomes restricted with trapped dirt and debris, the airflow pattern changes in ways the mass airflow sensor was not calibrated to handle. The engine control unit receives skewed airflow readings and adjusts fuel delivery incorrectly, often commanding a richer mixture than the engine actually needs. That rich condition washes cylinder walls with excess fuel, dilutes the protective oil film on the piston rings, and accelerates carbon deposits on intake valves and combustion chambers. Toyota recommends replacing the engine air filter every 30,000 miles under normal driving conditions and more frequently in dusty or rural environments. By 60,000 miles, a filter that was already borderline at 30,000 is now actively choking the engine and degrading sensor accuracy. A new OEM-style panel filter costs $15 to $25 and takes less than 2 minutes to swap on most Toyota models. The air filter box is typically located on the driver's side of the engine bay, with simple snap-on or clip-on fasteners. Pop the clips, lift the old filter out, drop the new one in with the airflow direction arrow pointing correctly, and close the housing. That 2-minute job protects the mass airflow sensor, fuel injectors, catalytic converter, and piston rings simultaneously. It is one of the highest value maintenance tasks on any Toyota engine relative to the time and money it costs. Number 6. Flush the brake fluid before moisture destroys internal components. Brake fluid is hygroscopic. It absorbs moisture directly from the surrounding air through microscopic pores in rubber brake hoses, caliper seals, and the reservoir cap. Over 50,000 to 60,000 miles of normal driving, moisture content in the brake fluid rises steadily, regardless of how the vehicle is driven. That accumulated moisture lowers the boiling point of the fluid, which increases the risk of brake fade during hard stops, and it introduces corrosion to the internal bores of brake calipers, the ABS modulator valve assembly, and steel brake lines. Toyota's ABS modulator is one of the most expensive brake components to replace on any model, often running $800 to $1,400, including parts and labor. Corroded caliper pistons cause uneven braking, premature pad wear, and a pulsation that mimics warped rotors and leads to unnecessary rotor replacements. A complete brake fluid flush costs $80 to $120 at most independent shops and replaces every drop of contaminated fluid with fresh DOT3 or DOT4 brake fluid as specified in your Toyota owner's manual. You can test brake fluid condition in seconds with a $20 electronic moisture tester that reads the boiling point directly from the reservoir. If the boiling point has dropped below 350 degrees Fahrenheit, the fluid has absorbed enough water to compromise both braking performance and internal component protection. Fresh brake fluid protects precision. ABS components that are far more expensive to replace than the flush itself will ever cost. Number 7. Inspect the serpentine belt and automatic tensioner before they fail without warning. The serpentine belt on Toyota engines drives the alternator, power steering pump, air conditioning compressor, and in some engine configurations, the water pump. A single belt failure at highway speed disables all of those critical systems simultaneously. Modern Toyota serpentine belts are made from EPDM rubber, which does not crack visibly along the surface like older neoprene belts did. Instead, EPDM wears like a tire tread, losing material from the ribbed contact surface gradually and invisibly. By 60,000 miles, rib depth has decreased enough to reduce grip on accessory pulleys, especially under the load-dependent tension maintained by the automatic belt tensioner assembly. The tensioner itself uses an internal spring and hydraulic damper mechanism that weakens with age and heat exposure. A weak tensioner allows belt slip under heavy accessory load, which causes alternator undercharging, reduced air conditioning output, and a high-pitched chirping noise at startup that many owners mistake for something far more serious. Inspect the belt ribs carefully for glazing, uneven material loss, or hairline surface cracks. Check the tensioner by watching for excessive bounce or rapid oscillation while the engine idles with the air conditioning running. A new serpentine belt costs $25 to $50. A complete tensioner assembly runs $60 to $120. Together, they prevent a roadside breakdown that could also overheat the engine within minutes if the water pump loses belt drive. That is a $100 to $170 insurance policy against a potential $3,000 catastrophe. Number 8. Have the transmission fluid inspected, even if Toyota calls it lifetime fill. Toyota labels certain automatic transmission fluids as lifetime fill, particularly the Toyota World Standard automatic transmission fluid used in newer 6-speed and 8-speed automatic transmissions. That label leads many owners to believe the fluid never requires attention for the entire life of the vehicle. Engineering reality tells a very different story. Transmission fluid degrades through repeated heat cycles, mechanical shear stress from clutch pack engagement, and friction material contamination that accumulates with every shift. By 60,000 miles, the fluid inside a Toyota automatic transmission has already lost a measurable percentage of its friction-modifying additives, anti-wear compounds, and oxidation inhibitors. Dark, burnt-smelling fluid on the dipstick or inspection plug is not still performing at factory specification, regardless of what the printed maintenance schedule implies. A simple drain and fill service, which replaces roughly 3 to 4 quarts of the total fluid volume, costs $150 to $250 using genuine Toyota WS automatic transmission fluid. That partial exchange refreshes critical additive chemistry without the risk of disturbing accumulated sediment and debris the way a full power flush can on a high-mileage transmission. Independent transmission data consistently shows that Toyota transmissions receiving periodic fluid service outlast those running on original factory fill by significant margins. A $200 fluid service today protects a $4,000 to $6,000 transmission replacement 5 years from now. The math on that decision speaks entirely for itself. Number 9. Clean or replace the positive crankcase ventilation valve. The PCV valve on a Toyota engine is a small, spring-loaded one-way valve typically pressed into a rubber grommet on the valve cover. Its job is to route blow-by gases from the crankcase back into the intake manifold for recombustion, instead of allowing pressure to build unchecked inside the engine. When the PCV valve sticks in the open position, it creates an unmetered vacuum leak that leans out the air-fuel mixture at idle and causes rough or unstable engine behavior. When it sticks closed or becomes clogged with sludge, crankcase pressure rises and forces oil vapor past every gasket and seal in the engine. Both failure modes accelerate oil contamination, sludge formation, and seal degradation from the inside out. Toyota engines known for exceptional longevity, including the one NZFE in the Corolla, the two ARFE in the Camry, and the two GRFE in the Highlander, all depend on proper PCV function to manage internal crankcase pressure within safe limits. The valve itself costs $8 to $15 at any parts store and can be replaced in under a minute by pulling the old one straight out of the valve cover grommet and pressing the new one in. Hold the old valve near your ear and shake it. If it clicks freely, the internal spring still has life. If it is silent, sticky, or feels gummed up, replace it without hesitation. This is one of the cheapest maintenance items on any Toyota engine and one of the most consequential when it gets neglected past 60,000 miles. Number 10. Check all engine and transmission mounts for deterioration. Engine mounts and transmission mounts on Toyota vehicles use rubber or fluid-filled dampeners designed to absorb vibration and keep the powertrain securely positioned during acceleration, braking, and steady-state idling. By 60,000 miles, the rubber compound in these mounts has endured thousands of heat cycles from engine bay temperatures and is beginning to crack, sag, or separate from the bonded metal brackets. A failed or collapsed engine mount allows the entire engine to shift position under load, which places stress on exhaust flex pipes, transmission shift linkage cables, coolant hoses, electrical wiring harnesses, and even the engine oil pan. That excess movement also creates a noticeable low-frequency vibration at idle that transfers through the steering wheel and floorboards, leading many owners to chase phantom misfires or suspect internal transmission problems when the real cause is a $200 rubber mount. Toyota Camry and RAV4 models are particularly known for front-engine mount deterioration between 50,000 and 80,000 miles due to the transverse engine layout concentrating torque load on the front mount. A visual inspection from underneath the vehicle with a flashlight reveals cracked rubber, fluid leakage from hydraulic mounts, or visible sagging where the mount has compressed beyond its designed range. Replacing a single engine mount typically costs from $150 to $350 depending on which mount has failed and how accessible it is. Catching a worn mount early prevents the kind of cascading secondary damage to surrounding components that turns a straightforward repair into a $1,000 series of problems that all trace back to one ignored piece of rubber. Every single item on this list shares one thing in common. None of them trigger a dashboard warning light before the damage is already done. Toyota's engineering is built to last, but that extraordinary longevity depends entirely on owners protecting the systems that Toyota cannot monitor from the instrument cluster. The difference between a Toyota that crosses 250,000 miles with its original engine and one that needs a $5,500 rebuild at 120,000 miles comes down to what happens in that critical maintenance window before 60,000 miles. Fresh fluids, clean filters, functional valves, and stable mounts are not expensive when handled on time. They are the foundation that every other system in the vehicle depends on to function correctly. Skip them, and you pay exponentially more later. Handle them now, and your Toyota does exactly what it was built to do: run for a very long time without ever asking for much in return. If you're enjoying this video, consider watching this one where I'm sharing more secrets to keep your Toyota running well past 300,000 miles.